good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. This evening, we're going to discuss DA attorney Fani Willis, and we're going to talk about Joy Reid. If you saw the thumbnail, Joy Reid claims that Fani Willis is a hero. So we'll get more into that and why Joy Reid thinks Fani Willis is a hero. And of course, it all has to do with Donald Trump. And we have some more information about Fani Willis, so we'll discuss that this evening. Also, we're going to talk about Chicago. Mayor Brandon Johnson is celebrating his 100 days of being in office. He sat down with a local TV reporter and she asked him questions about what he campaigned on, all the things he wanted to do, and are the things that he said he sought out to do. She wanted to know, did he meet his goal or where he was with his goals? Okay, so we'll talk about that and his shocking discovery with Brandon Johnson. He didn't meet none of his goals. So, and he gets kind of irritated. So we'll talk about that later on this evening. So let's get to Joy Reid. Joy Reid, she's on MSNBC. For some reason, I know I keep on talking about her hair. I hate when people talk about other people's hair, but this is a weave, so it's not her hair for real. I just think it's a bad decision when you decide to put a different color on your head that doesn't really match your skin tone. So that's really irritating for me. And I think women shouldn't do that. If it doesn't match your skin tone, it doesn't match the whole part of your head. I know there's certain things that's called highlights because I have highlights in my head. But I feel like, okay, make it believable. Don't just put a wig on top of your head. But that's not why I'm talking about Joy Reid today. Joy Reid, she was on MSNBC and she said, Fani, it looks like Fani Willis, but they call it Fani Willis. She's claiming that she is a hero. And to me, it's really crazy that she would say that. Anyway, so let me share this with you. Okay, where is she? Oh, here it is. Okay, and this is her explaining why she think Fani Willis is a hero.
I can tell you for me, it is, when I moved back to New York, one of the mugshots that sit with me, I still remember that he made 5 teenagers my age take a mugshot. Yeah. That he wanted them not just take a mugshot, he wanted them dead.
Say what that case was.
And this was the Central Park 5 case, the exonerated 5, and they were my age. Yeah. So as a teenager living in New York,
Donald Trump never prosecuted these people. Donald Trump is not a lawyer. So what is she talking about? I know when they was exonerated, he had some things to say about them, but what are you saying? Okay, these people were exonerated. They spent 20 years in jail. Donald Trump had nothing to do with them being prosecuted unjustly. Can we say that? Unjustly, because they found out that they didn't do it. But why would you try to correlate? Because he says he had his own opinion about the Central Park 5 guys. Why are you saying that? Anyway, let's move forward. And there we go. This hair on top of her head. Type in the chat if you agree with her here. Because it really bothers me. It really bothers me when I see we're talking about culture appropriation. I mean, your hair is not blonde. We know your hair is not blonde. You could at least made it honey blonde and believable. This is like, I'm not for sure what color this is. I just it bothers me. It irritates my soul. Anyway.
I've said it before. This is the reason I never watched The Apprentice. I despised Donald Trump because he, to me, signified the rich white guy in Manhattan that absolutely hated and despised me, that hated and despised my cousins, my friends, everyone we knew, that called us wilding just because we were in the park.
And then let me say this. All personal accounts that I've known to hear about Donald Trump, whether it would be maybe white or black, personal accounts that people actually went online and talked about Donald Trump. Less than her, just regular day working people. He's always treated with, they always have kind words to say about Donald Trump. So she doesn't like him because he's rich. That's her problem. Oh, he's a rich white guy. So I can't like him because he's elite, maybe. And you're trying to associate his eliteness with a bad person. But just because you're a prominent business person or man, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a crappy person. So she's digging, like yesterday, she talked about Vivek Ramaswamy didn't meet the mark. And she went on to say, oh, Ron DeSantis, or no, she was saying Mike Pence did whatever in the debate. She thought he won a debate. And I'm like, did you listen to the same debate? This is Joy Reid. I'm surprised she's still online. I mean, I'm surprised she still have a job because it doesn't make sense for her to be saying this stuff. To me, it's like, where's the logic at?
Said we can't be free to walk around in the street. That said when Patrick Dorismond got killed by an off-duty police officer, he's no choir boy. And he was was no altar boy. He was literally an altar boy. Giuliani said that. And so people like Giuliani and people like Trump persecuted Black and brown people in New York. It's what they did for fun. It's what they did for.
She act as if they was part of the, now you could say Mayor Giuliani, but Donald Trump just got into political office in 2016. He just became in that political space. So why are you saying this about Donald Trump? He's more of a businessman than anything. Now, if you're saying that Joe Biden, was he a Joe Biden? Joe Biden locked a lot of Black folks up because the color of their skin. We could find, as a matter of fact, I saved some videos of Joe Biden. So she's saying this about Donald Trump, but the president that you love so dearly, you don't say that about him. And he spent his whole career locking Black folks up, particularly Black men.
Pleasure. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed lording over people who had nothing, who had no $1 million lawyers, who couldn't change lawyers at the drop of a hat and get a different hip hop lawyer the next day when they were tired of one, who couldn't go out and make their case on, Fox or on news.
Why are they like, oh, I feel so sorry for Black. Look at their faces. I can't believe you went through that. Oh my God, I can't believe it. You're so persecuted for just being Black, but you're sitting on MSNBC saying, woe is me. You went to Harvard. Didn't she say she went to Harvard? On affirmative action. Now we could see affirmative action doesn't really work because thought she went to Harvard based on her intellect, but apparently she has none. She has no intellect. But anyway, let's move forward. But I want you guys to recognize these faces. Look at this guy over here. Like, I can't believe this is so heartbreaking. Rachel Maddow. Oh my God. Poor Black woman. You're you had a hard life. This is so sad. And look at this lady. She looking like, when is this going? I gotta look concerned, but when will this end? This is what I see in their face. But Rachel looking like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is horrific. You know, I can't really see his face, but he got to sit through it. They got to sit through this mess of her whining, talking about, yeah, remember the Central Park 5 people, and, you know, Donald Trump said whatever he said. You know, it doesn't make any sense. And all my friends, I couldn't play in the park because they called us. They said we was wilding. Well, were you? Were you? Anyway.
Who couldn't go out and make their case on, you know, Fox or on Newsmax, who had nothing, and who Donald Trump lorded his everything over, and still people who looked like them put him in rap songs. It was an indignity to me that something I loved, a culture I love, would line.
Because Donald Trump, reason why they put him in rap songs, because Donald Trump was cool with everybody. That's why he had people, black men, liking him, because he was cool with everybody. Donald Trump had a lot of pretty women around him. He was rich. So if you're a rapper, that's what you go for. You want money and hoes. So that's why these rappers were rapping about it. But you won't understand. She's out of touch. Because if she was in touch with reality, she wouldn't understand that. And like I said, it's a sin, or it should be a crime, for her to have that 27-piece hair in her head. And you are on MSNBC. I know they're paying you a hefty salary. You need to get that hair done. That's what you really need to do. That's a crime.
That. And so to me, this is justice. The fact that Manhattan didn't give him a mugshot, I thought was offensive. I thought that the Fed said, we already know what he looks like. He was the president of the United States. Okay, offensive. Everyone else had to take him. This case, and I think Fani Willis is a hero. She is a national hero, because she, more than any prosecutor in this country, and I respect Jack Smith and I respect all the prosecutors that are doing this, she's the only one who said these wealthy, powerful, privileged men and women are just American citizens. And
you used all these words: wealthy, powerful. What are you? You're not wealthy. You're not powerful, because you get to spew your rhetoric to millions of people. Millions of people.
And when they break the law, they will take that picture.
So there you have it. Fani Willis is a hero because she actually got a mugshot. Actually got a mugshot out of Donald Trump. That's why she's a hero. Let me go to some of your tweets. Hanging AZ, Joy and Fani could have a mean mugging contest. Yeah, they do. Outcast said, looks terrible. It does. I don't know who said that. And then I think it's throwing me off because of that shirt. Hanging AZ said, throw that wig in the trash. It'd be better if she went Jada Pinkett. Probably so. Yeah, because this ain't it, baby girl. This is not it. Ultra 80s Joy just as racist against Trump to the point that she can't keep up with her own. Yeah, kill me. Now, Hagen AZ, you know Joy doesn't live by no black people. She probably scared. She's probably scared. And it's interesting because when you're rich and you're a liberal rich person, oh, they love you. But when you're rich and you're a conservative, you're the devil. You're literally the devil. They only like rich people when they're liberals, like liberal nut jobs. That's only when they like them. So let's go to Fani Willis. This is interesting. So the oversight committee is actually launching an investigation. They're launching an investigation into Fani Willis because they're trying to see if she coordinated any of her investigation with the DOJ. And they're thinking that it was a coordinated act. So they sent a request in and they gave her a deadline of September the 7th. Jim Jordan gave Willis a deadline of September the 7th to hand over any documents or communications related to their requests. So this is what they're talking about on MSNBC.
Hill, House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan sent a letter to the Fulton County District Attorney, Fani Willis, demanding information related to her investigation. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is with us this morning. Ryan, good morning. What do we know?
Well, this is not a surprise by any stretch of the imagination, Jose, including the timing of this letter from the House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan to Fani Willis in Fulton County. It comes on the same day that the former president, of course, is expected to turn himself over. And it is a letter requesting information about the district attorney's investigation in any way, shape, or form that would touch the federal government. So in particular, Jim Jordan is specifically interested in any communication or coordination between Willis and the special counsel's office of Jack Smith and his investigation and subsequent indictment into the former president and many of the same charges that Fani Willis is accusing Donald Trump of being guilty of. At the same time, they're asking for any sort of use of federal funds in the process of this particular investigation, and also whether or not there was any interface with the Department of Justice as well. This is almost identical to the pattern that we saw play out when Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan district attorney, indicted the former president. And you can see that Jim Jordan here is trying to really, thread a very thin needle here, because Fani Willis's investigation is at the state level. It really has almost no federal jurisdiction. And so what the federal government is trying to do here in terms of the House Judiciary Committee is trying to find examples of where she is working with the federal government, either through the funding of her office or through the interactions that she may have had with the Department of Justice. We should also point out, Jose, there's nothing that says that Fani Willis can't talk to members of the Department of Justice as part of her investigation, share information, and try and to determine exactly what could help or hurt her investigation. But it's just another example of these House Republicans trying to provide cover for the former president as he is scheduled to be arrested later today in Atlanta.
So yeah, they're launching an investigation into her. Of course, MSNBC is going to play it down, um, the severity of it, of course. But it's saying on this report, the House Judiciary Committee has opened a congressional investigation into Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, a development that was first reported by CNN and comes the same day Trump is to be surrendered. Okay, so we already know that. I said the committee sent the letter on Thursday asking whether or not she communicated or coordinated with the Justice Department.
You want us to only dry our dishes?
Dry all the dishes and put them all away. Thank you. Trump twice on, okay, it says she communicated or coordinated with the Justice Department, who has indicated Trump twice on 2 separate cases. Okay. I lost my spot. And it says, Jordan wrote in this letter, it said you did not bring charges until 2.5 years later, at a time when the campaign for Republican presidential nomination is in full swing. Moreover, you have requested that the trial in this matter begin on March the 4th. So that's why they're doing that on Super Tuesday, the day before Super Tuesday, and 8 days before the Georgia presidential primary. So, MSNBC is trying to play it down where, and I think they're trying to put a trail out there or election interference, which we totally know this is election interference. You had ample time to gather up your information about Donald Trump, whether or not he tried to, I guess, overturn the election. You knew what it was. So why are you waiting 2.5 years later to prosecute him or to bring charges about? Because if he did not put his bid in for president again, this wouldn't even came about. They would have just been like, okay, he's not a bother anymore. He ran away. He's gone away. But since he's running for president, you want to do this. Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw when Trump was coming in to turn himself in, and Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, she has spoken to the top officials in the state about the potential probe. She also told CNN that she was pushing for congressional-led inquiry into Willis. And she says, I'm going to be talking to Jim Jordan, Jamie Comer, and I'd like to ask also Kevin McCarthy his thoughts on looking at doing an investigation and if there is a collaboration or conspiracy of any kind between the Department of Justice and Jack Smith special counsel office with the state DAs, Green told CNN. So I think that could be a place of oversight. And they're saying that this is, something that the Republicans do all the time. But yeah, you're trying to mess with the main nominee. He's the main person, the leading person. So of course they're going to try to stop you from trying to do whatever you're trying to do. So that happened. So she has till September the 7th to respond to the oversight committee. Then they're trying to get the case moved. Now, one of the 19, I guess, co-conspirators in Trump's case, he wants a speedy trial. Of course, you have a right to a speedy trial. And they're trying to sever his trial and, so they could be tried separate. So he wants his trial in October. Will it happen in October? Probably not, because this is a RICO charge. Every single one of those defendants with Donald Trump were charged as a RICO charge, and it's a very complex charge. So, but since he wants a speedy trial, they was going to grant him a speedy trial. And this is them talking about how Trump's lawyers is trying to get the case moved to federal courts. And Tom Morgan, a former DA of DeKalb County, he had to write a letter of, I guess, opinion based off his experience about this case. And he said he doesn't think they're going to move the case. Another thing they point out, so since this is a state case, racketeering in Georgia, they have several different laws. He said almost 107 different charges that they could bring up on Donald Trump and his co-conspirators. It's more extensive, quote unquote, quote, in Georgia. So that they could charge Donald Trump with. But if they move it to federal, they said it's very hard to prove in federal case, as a federal case. And it's only so many charges you could bring up in a racketeering charge in a federal case. So this is him talking about it.
Attorney of DeKalb County, Georgia, which of course borders Fulton County. J. Tom, I really appreciate you coming on and helping us do this here. First, let me ask a basic, larger legal decision in what Fani Willis did. She decided to go with a racketeering case. Many of our legal experts, who admittedly are more federal government experts, former U.S. attorneys, things like that, believed that she could have just done a straight up conspiracy case without the racketeering aspect. And the fear is that making it a RICO case is just inevitably makes it impossible to get to trial in a reasonable amount of time. Is that a fair critique?
No, Chuck, not at all.
Okay.
I prosecuted the first RICO case in Georgia against a public official, where I prosecuted a Georgia sheriff for corruption and murdering the sheriff-elect. John Floyd, who wrote that indictment for my office, wrote the indictment for Fani Willis in the Fulton County office. The Georgia RICO statute is broader than the federal statute. I understand that federal prosecutors are not savvy to understand the Georgia statute, but Chuck, it encompasses many more crimes than the federal statute. And what that does, it gives Fani a way to bring in other crimes from other jurisdictions that you cannot do in a straight up conspiracy case. She's got 160 overt acts. She's got 40 other separate charge crimes. You cannot do that, but in a RICO case.
All right. Now, we've got the first attempt to sever from the other 18 co-defendants with Mr. Cheesebro demanding a speedy trial. Fani Willis says, fine, let's try everybody together on that speedy trial. The judge seems to be open to the one person. What's the likely outcome here?
There's little to no chance that the other defendants, if they do not want to be tried in October, will be. All they have to say is that this is a very complicated case. Due process would be denied if they were forced to trial. They did not sign on. Let the other defendant go forward, and we will be ready when the court tells us to. But this is far too soon. Also, Chuck, as you know, we've got this unknown with the removal to federal court of some of the defendants. There's some argument, we've never seen anything like this before, that if one defendant gets removed to federal court, all defendants get removed to federal court. I filed a brief on this issue along with other former judges and prosecutors, outlining why we believe this should not get moved to federal court, and the judge will hear those arguments on Monday.
I get the all or nothing. Do you think Mark Meadows, because he was a federal office holder, essentially, right, working in the executive branch, do you think he specifically has a case?
No, Mr. Meadows was far outside of the scope of employment. There's nothing as chief of staff for the president that would call for him to come down to Marietta, Georgia, for example, to look at a recount or to help meet the phone call to Secretary of State Raffensperger to find the 11,780 votes. All these allegations are far outside of the scope of employment, and that, therefore, I don't believe there are grounds to move this to federal court, but we'll see what Judge Jones does on Monday.
What do you make of why she subpoenaed the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger? Is he there just as a witness to explain who made the phone call?
And to talk about the pressure that was put on him by all these defendants. Remember, all these are lumped in one RICO count. So it's all for one, one for all. And if you put Mr. Meadows in there in the context of how Mr. Trump and others were trying to throw this election, I don't see it getting moved.
All right. Well, by the way, since you and I began talking, Sidney Powell is now asking for a speedy trial. She is also now asking for that. So help me out here. You obviously don't think they can move all of it up. But if the judge says, okay, Cheesebro gets to, I assume Fani Willis doesn't want to lay out her case with one before she gets to the others. How does this work?
Well, that's exactly how it will work. And it's a smart strategy from the defense team for the others to sit back and watch and see how Ms. Willis is going to approach this. I was not aware that Ms. Powell has moved hers.
Just happened.
Hers is a very different case, as you know, Chuck, because she was physically in Georgia perpetrating these lies. Now, I will say, as a former prosecutor, as you know, as a former district attorney as well, I would put up the most powerful two witnesses are the two women from Georgia, the campaign, the election workers, whose lives were basically ruined when Sidney Powell, Giuliani, and them said that they were, passing a USB port that had all these other votes. And I said, people came, they threatened them. They are very powerful witnesses. I've seen clips of their interviews. And I think if you lead off with those, Chuck, it's going to be a tough case for the defendants.
Well, that's interesting. Well, again, it goes back to, so if they have severed, would she essentially just prosecute the case against Sidney Powell and just everything associated with her? Are there stuff she would leave out of her prosecution if Sidney Powell wasn't involved in that part of the scheme?
Well, if Powell has filed, as she said, a motion for speedy trial, she and Cheesebro are going to be tried together.
Okay.
And since this is a RICO case, I thought the same thing this morning, but it's a RICO case, so you've got to prove all the acts in the RICO charge. So Ms. Willis, it certainly is going to prove her case at least once. Now, on the other hand, she gets a
Do you actually think she's going to actually prove her case? I mean, like I said, this is a stretch. You have 19 co-conspirators that you saying that they mastermind to overthrow the election. 19 people. And I did not know out of these 19 people, only one other person was actually living in the state, in the actual state of Georgia. So this is a far reach to me. Now, of course, they're going to be, or if I were on trial, I would like to have a jury of my peers. That's going to be hard for them to prove, but I don't see all the evidence. I don't see all the evidence, but like I said, I think it's an overreach for her to prove racketeering with 19 defendants or 20 defendants, and they don't actually live in the state of Georgia.
two bites at the apple. If there are weaknesses in her case,
Right.
and an acquittal would not help, but it certainly will help her know where the weaknesses and strengths by having a trial run ahead of time.
But I see your
With
point.
two-
If you were to have anybody sever, having Sidney Powell sever, Fani Willis is fine with that because there's so much hard evidence against her, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point.
J. Tom Morgan, former DeKalb County prosecutor, really appreciate you coming on, offering your expertise, getting us all familiar with the Georgia Penal Code. Thank you, sir.
We will.
So, yeah, this will be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't think it's going to play out in Fani's favor. I really don't think that it's going to play out. That Alvin Bragg case, I think that's an overreach on that. You're talking about election financial scandal on that case. And then you're talking, all these cases, I think it's like a real stretch for them to bring up charges. And mind you, especially with Alvin Bragg, before Alvin Bragg was elected, or when he first got in office, he said there was no evidence, not enough evidence to prosecute Donald Trump. Then all of a sudden, Donald Trump launched his bid for the presidency, and now all of a sudden, oh, we do have evidence, or we do have enough evidence to indict him. I just don't understand. Like I said, this is a ploy, election interference, a way for them to try to get rid of Donald Trump, and I don't think it's happening in their favor. Anyway, so we're going to move on. Enough about that, because we have almost a year and 3 months before next year of November 2024, and the election. We're going to be talking about it for a long time. So we might as well talk about something else. Let's talk about your favorite mayor, Brandon Johnson. Your favorite mayor, Brandon Johnson. He's celebrating his campaign, or not campaign, his mayorship of 100 days of being the mayor of Chicago. And one of their local news reporters sat down and talked to him. I think her name is Dana Kozlov, and talked about his progress. So let's see what he had to say.
Day mark leading the city on the campaign trail. He made some big promises. So the question now is, has he kept them?
CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kozlov sat down with the mayor to talk about his progress. Dana.
Erica and Chris, during his campaign, the mayor said crime was the #1 concern facing Chicagoans, and it is still a top concern. He's named his pick to be the next police superintendent, but during our 10-minute interview today, I wanted to talk more about other steps he's taken. What one or two things has your administration done specifically to combat street crime?
Well, as you know, that public safety is top of mind for everyone, especially someone like me who is raising a family in Austin.
Mayor Brandon Johnson is always quick to remind people he knows the perils and challenges of the streets. He says in his first 100 days, his commitment to getting at the root causes of crime and making streets safer hasn't wavered. It's why he named a first ever deputy mayor of public safety, Garyon Gatewood.
Everybody that comes to this city thinks about safety. Right?
But what more has his administration done?
24,000 young people were employed for summer positions that we are working to build capacity for year-round positions, also working with the faith community, the business community, the philanthropic community to make critical investments.
Can you give me a couple specific examples?
24,000 young people working, that is a public safety plan.
The employment is concrete. The others, though, are just, in my opinion, and so we could agree to disagree, are not concrete examples. They are what you're hoping and planning to do.
No, that's not a hope, and I'm glad that your opinion is not the prevailing opinion of people that I talk to all over the city of Chicago.
You see, he got mad. He got mad because she called him out saying this is not concrete things that you're doing. And you're talking about, oh, you talked to the people in Chicago. What about that lady? You know, a couple of days ago, I showed you, and probably was yesterday, the lady, young man, her nephew was shot. 14-year-old boy, he was shot. She saw his shoes in the front lawn. And apparently he got shot out of his shoes and he died on the side of a neighbor's house. And she said one thing, she prepared him to be a good kid academically, but she didn't prepare him how to survive Chicago, the gun violence. So are you really talking to your neighbors? Are you talking to the people of Chicago? Because they're mad as hell, even with the immigration. They're mad. So who are you talking to? Not your constituents, you're not. And if you are you really listening to them?
Do you know what people ask me all over the city of Chicago, what I've experienced over the first 100 days? How can they be helpful?
During our first campaign sit-down in February, Johnson said getting young people employed was top of his list. A CBS 2 public records request shows as of the end of this June, just under 20,000 youth had been hired in the city's One Summer program. Do you think you've since, in the last few weeks, reached the 24,000
So we have 24,000 young people that have been hired for the summer.
Our data shows 20,000.
We have 24,000 young people that have been hired for summer positions. Other administrations have not had my laser focus on investing in people. And just know that I am very much committed to investing in people.
I should note we are waiting on another public records request to get the final number of young people employed by the city this year. When I asked Mayor Johnson what his next priority is, he says it's his Bring Chicago Home initiative, which would provide a tax break for working people and address homelessness. Erica and Chris?
Very compelling.
Yeah, bring Chicago home. But, you know, they're talking about in Chicago on how they could tax people, or no, the real estate tax, to kind of subsidize some of these programs that Mayor Brandon Johnson wants to initiate. So, and I'm assuming these are real estate transfer tax, or tax on certain properties of a certain value. So of course you're taxing people over a certain dollar amount more if they're dabbling in real estate. So that's one problem that they're facing. But let me show you this about Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson, you know, he was talking about, oh, how many people he's saved, or jobs he's actually given to minors, you know, these teenagers. And this is Mayor Brandon Johnson talking about, you know, what he's planning to do, you know. And now this is his campaign. Don't you feel all good and warm and fuzzy? This is what he's saying about, what he's going to do or what he's already done, so far, thus far. But this guy named Hey Jackass, he put this on here. You guys didn't see that. Did you see my last? Oh yeah. Okay. He put this on.
My question is, what's the cost to the city of Chicago when seniors and individuals with disabilities can't move around in the city of Chicago because the season has changed? The One Fair Wage Ordinance. This ordinance was introduced today, which would eliminate the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. Stronger.
And we're grateful to have our mayor with us today to come out and see and tour some of the damage.
It's devastating. We are the city of Chicago, and we pride ourselves of being available for one another. The City Council approved the resolution to hold subject matter hearings for treatment, not trauma.
And the motion passes.
Bringing Chicago home is a tremendous step in the fight to end homelessness. Safer.
We expect a rapid expansion of youth paid opportunities this summer.
I love this program so much, and I believe this program is a chance for teenagers to get off the streets and actually be active in the world.
Chief Larry Snelling has been chosen to lead the Chicago Police Department.
We are rooted in constitutional policing, and we are always seeking justice.
Together, we can build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. We
just what?
Today, with a deep belief,
seeking justice.
Build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. We just have to look deep into the soul of Chicago. Can I get a witness?
So you should feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So Hey Jackass, he put that up there. That's his Twitter name. That's his Twitter name. But he also put up this. This is some stats. First full 90 days. Now we're looking at comparison from Mayor Rahm Emanuel. He served 2 terms, and this is his second term. Comparison Mayor Lori Lightfoot to Mayor Brandon Johnson. So in the first 90 days, Mayor Emanuel had 145 people shot and killed in his first 90 days. Now, is it his fault that these people came out and started killing each other? No, he didn't hold the gun, but this city is under your leadership. So Emanuel had 145 killed, shot and killed. Lightfoot, 133, slightly lower than Emanuel. But Brandon Johnson, his first 90 days, he had a whopping 171 people killed by gun violence. By gun violence. Shot and wounded. Emanuel had 119. Lori Lightfoot, 113. And Johnson, of course, he's higher. It's 838. Total shot, 1,009. Johnson reached over 1,000. Everybody else was under. 900. You got 964 for Emmanuel, and total shot for Lori was 946. They said a total homicides in the first 90 days. Emmanuel had 164, Lightfoot 150, and 191 for Brandon Johnson. So, stats don't lie. Brandon Johnson, Mayor Brandon Johnson, my question is to you, do you feel like you're doing a good job? Apparently he does. But do things get worse before they get better? I don't know. Seemed like they're getting pretty bad in Chicago. This last weekend, they had actually 40 people shot. 40-something odd people shot and 7 people killed in Chicago. But you have Brandon Johnson saying you can't demonize the kids. We don't want you demonizing our kids. It doesn't make any sense. And he's trying to get 24,000. Well, I guess he got 24,000 people off the street, kids, so they could do something. But if you're soft on crime, the kids that's walking around with the shoot them up, bang, bang, the illegal guns, the illegal weapons, do you think they're going to get a job? You're saving some kids. I give you that. You are saving some kids to keep them off the street, to keep them busy. But the ones that you didn't want to demonize, do you think they're in the summer program? Do you think they really want to work? I'm just, you guys put it in the chat. Let me know. Let me know. If you think these kids that he don't want to demonize will be in the summer program. So that's all I got to say about that. That's all I got to say about that is, I don't want to beat a dead horse. We're going to talk about that a lot, because I'm pretty sure Chicago's going to be in the news again. It's going to make nationwide news again. Okay, so you guys, our stream is running out. Been on here for about an hour. Thank you guys for tuning in. I might try to go online. I always say this. I might try to go online this weekend, but it all depends. I'm going on vacation, but I'll still be uploading videos next week, but I'll be on vacation. So I'll try to stay connected and upload more videos this week, but I probably won't go live unless I have some time to go live. Anyway, thank you for tuning in once again. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this channel with your friends. I'm sending all my good to you. You guys have a nice weekend.